Don't sound silly.
Welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. I am your host, John Methenkamp. If you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share, you can email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook. You can send me a message there, or just leave a comment underneath one of the videos. I'll find a way to get a hold of you, and maybe we can have you on the show. And when I say paranormal, I mean anything. Cryptid, UFOs, ghosts. Maybe you saw a Loch Ness monster. Whatever it is, I want to hear it. If it's weird and supernatural, email me. Really appreciate all the support I've been getting over the last few weeks. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like it, share it, comment. Tell your friends about the show. That's the only way we can grow. Make sure you're checking out the descriptions on all my videos. Listed down below, you'll find all my favorite podcasts. We have Nevermore Hollows, Drunken Cryptids, Chumming with the Spirits, Lodge Tales, Unlocking the Paranormal, and a new one, Ghost Gossip. On tonight's show, we have Jenna Grover. She's a member of the She Squatchers, and this wraps up 5 weeks of She Squatcher episodes. Make sure you're going back and checking out the other 4 weeks so you can get the full story. I really do appreciate all the women coming back in and doing a one-on-one interview with me. You probably noticed at the beginning of the episode is a little different, but Jenna wanted to explain why the episode was so edited this time. Because normally I just record the episodes and I upload them with very few edits. Upcoming episodes include researcher and experiencer Todd Neese. Probably heard of him before. We also have the Bigfoot Finders, a really interesting encounter out of New York from Rich. And then after that, we're going to go off the rails with actress Mel Heflin. She's had some paranormal encounters and stars in a lot of horror movies. We also have an interview with our new friends Hunting Ghost and Making Toast. It should be called an Off the Rails episode too. Still have plenty scheduled to still do interviews for. Plenty of content coming up, so stay tuned. Hope you're enjoying the new intro and outro music. Please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of it. And with that, let's start the show.
Out in the woods, shadows creep slow. Footprints deep where no man should go. Cold winds howl through hollers and brooks. Whispers of Bigfoot in the way it looks. Myths, monsters, and bullets in the night. Under a pale moon, strange glowing light. Truth out there like a blade it cuts. Myths, monsters, and bullets run amok.
Welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. I am your host, John Methenkamp. On today's show, we have Jenna Grover from the She Squatchers. If you watched the episode that came out on the 14th of May, you'll have seen her and the rest of the crew come into my live. But tonight, she's come in and we're going to do a one-on-one interview. So Jenna, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, let me see. My name is Jennifer Grover. I grew up on a farm north of Glendon. I've been traveling my entire life, and I've also been trying to communicate with spirit. I've been trying to find cryptids. I've been basically turning life into an adventure.
Yeah, I've noticed from, the searching for Sasquatch videos and especially the, which one was it? I think it was the one that was just about you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you guys have one that's just about the She Squatchers. So, and I kind of got that feeling about you that you're, just looking for answers.
Yes. And life has so many unanswered questions. I mean, you've got cryptids that, I don't believe in every cryptid. No, I'm just saying that. But the ones that I do believe in, we definitely have found proof. I've seen things that I would have thought someone was crazy had they told me. So, and
So,
it
so
actually, sorry.
I'm sorry. So, what got you started down this path?
I was never really into cryptids. I was always into the spirit world, communicating with spirit, trying to find evidence so other people could see that there is this communication going on. I would do seances and use the Ouija board, and, we had ghosts in our house. And so, I mean, there was just a plethora of things that got my interest in spirituality and cryptids. But it wasn't until I got older, when I moved down to Texas, that I found out about a cryptid called the chupacabra. And when I went down there, they were telling me, and they said, "Don't say it 3 times." And I was like, how can I not now? So I went chupacabra. And they were like, "No." And it was so funny. They were very, very sensitive about this subject. And then I said chupacabra for the second time. And they were like, "No." And yeah, they were just so scared. So that actually kind of interested me in a cryptid, but I never really thought that Bigfoot existed. When Jen had told me very nervously, she told me what she was doing, and that was starting a team looking for Bigfoot. She told me about her first adventure, and I was sold. I didn't believe in Bigfoot. I didn't even know what Bigfoot was all about. I didn't know anything about Bigfoot. And I was just up for the adventure and the exercise and the camaraderie, because at that time I had just gotten out of a coma. I had a near-death experience. I almost died, and yeah, I was looking for a new lease on life because the old one was gone.
Wow. Is it too personal to ask what happened?
No, not at all. In 2009, a doctor nicked my colon during a routine laparoscopy, and he sent me home. Unbeknownst to him, I was septic. And so I laid there in bed and I was dying. My body I could literally feel acid drip in my body. I was in complete pain. The whole body was in complete pain. But when that dripped, when I felt the acid dripping, there's no other way of saying it, but there's no other pain. It's unexplainable. So I had called a nurse. It was an ask a nurse number. And I asked them, I said, well, I'm in a lot of pain, told them what just happened. And they said, well, take more oxycodone, because they gave me oxycodone. And they said, how much you're taking? And I said, I just one. And they said, well, take more. Take another one. And so I did, but the pain got worse. And so I called them back, and they ended up telling me, you're taking too much oxycodone. Just take one. And I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. I knew there was something going on. I was pretty sure that I was in trouble. And I decided, okay, it's time to make a phone call, because like I said, when that acid started dripping, it was death. It was literally death. I called my mom. She wasn't available. I called my aunts. I called my friends. Nobody was available. And finally, my mother-in-law, I got a hold of her and I said, I need help. And so she drove me. She probably drove 20 miles an hour to get me to the hospital, because I was in so much pain. Every little bump, every movement just made my entire body fall into this almost shock. And I got into the emergency room, and they made me wait about an hour to be seen. And by that time, my body was shutting down. I was unable to breathe anymore. I was like grasping for breath. And finally, they got me back into this little room, and a surgeon comes in, and he's trying to say, Jennifer, this is serious. This is what's going on, because they had done all these tests to see if I was septic. And basically, he looked at me laying in the bed, and because I was trying to comfort my family and friends who had finally actually just arrived. And I said, don't worry, it's just gas. It's just gas. Because I'm always worried about other people hurting. And I was like, no. And the surgeon literally looked at me. He goes, Jennifer, you could wake up or no, what did he say? He said, you could, almost saying you could die. But I knew it. I heard it. And he said, you could wake up with an ostomy bag. And I was like, at that point, you're just like, you're gone. In your mind, you're just like, whatever. It does, you just got to make it through. So anyway, they started wheeling me out on a gurney toward the surgery area. And I just remember at that point, my body was completely shutting down. My whole body was shaking, and I was losing life. And after that surgery, they had emergency surgery. And after the surgery, the doctor told my mom, He said, I'm so sorry. He said, we've done everything humanly possible. It's up to God now. So that was an amazing experience. As hard as it was, it has changed my life significantly.
Wow. Holy
Yeah.
cow.
Yeah, I'm still healing from it. I still suffer from chronic pain and chronic nausea. I don't tell people this because I don't want people to see my struggles. I want them to see my successes. We all have struggles, you know. We all have struggles. Life is hard for all of us. There's not one person out there that can say, you know, I have a great life. It's been so easy. No, that doesn't exist. You know, it's just about what you do with the struggle, how you get over that struggle. And I'm still doing it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So you mentioned that you grew up in a house that had ghosts.
yeah, okay. So when I was young, when I was young, I didn't realize what I had compared to other people. But I did notice when, as I got older, maybe into my teens, I started seeing shadow people. There was three of them actually that I know this sounds silly, but I would communicate with them and told them that, you know, I'm kind and they're welcome as long as they're kind. And, you know, we had our water faucets would be literally turned on. Phone cords, remember the phone cords that plugged into the wall? Yeah, those would just be going whack, 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 whack. I mean, granted, I was using the Ouija board and I was doing seances, like I said, because I've always been interested in the unknown, no matter what it is. So, yeah, I grew up with a lot of things like that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Um,
I did one of my favorite times, one of my favorite memories is when I was in my bedroom and I don't remember what was going on. I think I was just turning around to go back downstairs. And I looked in my room again and I saw this cross that had to be like 2.5 feet tall and about like, it was huge and it was a blue and white cross. And the first thing I did was, it's going to turn upside down. That's what it was in my mind because I watched a lot of scary movies. And that's so I ran away from it. And I kick myself now because after the initial shock of everything, seeing this cross on my wall, I had to go back up and decide, okay, is this from the lights outside? You know, I basically went out there and I investigated the whole scenario, and there's no possible way that anything could have made that cross.
so it wasn't like a physical cross. It was like
Light.
lights. Okay.
Light. Yeah, it was like
Wow.
a blue white light. It was thin too. It was like super thin. Like, you know, it wasn't like a thick cross. It was I wish I wouldn't have been scared of it because
Right.
can you imagine what would have happened had I embraced it and listened?
Yeah. Wow. You
Yeah.
said something about shadow people.
Oh, yep, yep. The shadow people. Oh, actually, I shouldn't say we. I did ask my niece if she saw them too for verification. She had come over and I said, do you see anything over in that corner? And she was like, yeah. So we talked about it. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And you know, I have to say, when I was communicating with them, I actually did bring a book over and I did read to them. I know that sounds silly, but it just felt like they needed some attention and they weren't getting it. And so I gave it to them and they really didn't bother anything after that.
So like once you acknowledge them, they didn't leave.
No, I mean, I just started paying attention to them and then they just kind of disappeared after that, or else I did. I've moved all over the world, all over the United States, I should say.
Yeah, because a lot of times when you hear about shadow people, my buddy Matthew, he calls them peeping toms because it's kind of like as soon as you see them, it's like, oh, I've been caught, and they disappear. So yeah, for you to be able to, kind of interact with them, that's pretty amazing, actually.
Yes,
Wow.
and I mean, there was no communication this, you know, verbally or audibly, but there was communication here in the heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was just amazing. And they weren't mischievous. They weren't, you know, they were just kind.
Have you ever
and they didn't
had
run.
have you ever had like a negative encounter with the spiritual realm?
Oh, yes. One of the situations that happened was when I was younger. I was I had a party. I had a lot of parties back then, but I had a party, and we were all using the Ouija board. And we were down in the basement, and then we were upstairs, and we were all over using this Ouija board. And so anyway, I had said goodbye to everyone. Everyone decided to leave. It was probably like maybe 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I locked all the doors, made sure everybody was gone. And I thought, all right, I'm gonna go upstairs, go to bed, feel good. All of a sudden, I start hearing bang, clash, crash, TV's on and off. And I'm like, okay, first of all, what the heck did I do? Yes, it was a Ouija board, but I was thinking, oh my gosh, what's happening here? And I was the only one in the house, and I was like, shoot. And all I wanted to do was hide, but I got my butt up and decided, okay, I need to go down there. So I started walking downstairs, and as I was walking, there was nothing, like it had stopped the minute I got out of my door. And I started walking down, and I was like, okay, everything looks normal. And then all of a sudden I realized, um, to my left was a den, like a den office area. And to my right was a round table. And in the den, I had a picture of myself with a cat. It was a picture that my mom just loved. And in the living room and dining room area was a cross that my brother had given me that had been passed down through our family, and as a form of protection, because he found out I was using the Ouija board, and he was like, you know what, Jenna, I'm going to give this to you, just use it. Anyway, what had happened is, as I was walking down the stairs, I looked around and I thought, okay, everything is fine, nothing's going on. And then all of a sudden I looked at the round table sitting right next to me, and there was a picture of me with the cross hanging around it. What I didn't tell you earlier was when we were using the Ouija board and we were having the conversation, I talked to someone called the judge, and he wouldn't get off the Ouija board. And so I had literally taken that cross and I slammed it on the board, trying to get it to stop. And it did. So I'm wondering, I don't know what happened, but I know I've been protected many, many, many times from death and from being hurt.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Oh. So you think it was this judge entity that was making all the noise and everything else?
Yeah, the chaos, I think, was coming from the judge, and my peeps took it all together and said, you're safe. So yeah, I have to tell you something else, and maybe you might have to mix this up, but speaking of being saved in different situations, do you want me to stop talking here, or do you want me to finish this and then go on with something else, or do you want me just to say it?
No, just go ahead. This is as much your show as it is mine. So
Okay. So when I was young, my mom and dad, they were farmers, and we had horses, and we would travel in the wintertime. And so we'd go down to Texas. And in Texas, they had a home, like a motor home, and they had trees right next to wait, let me try to say this again. Okay. In Texas, my parents they had a motorhome. Oh no, wait, was it a motorhome? No, okay. So my parents were farmers. My parents were farmers. Sorry, I tell you, my brain.
it's all right. It's all right.
Okay. So anyway, my parents were farmers, and beet farmers, sugar beets, and just a couple of different crops. And so we'd travel in the winter, and we'd go down to Donna, Texas, and they had purchased a trailer on one of the old folks villages down there. And so we had been there for quite some time, and they had a deck off of the trailer, and right beside the deck were trees, a grapefruit tree and an orange tree. So I'm not the best at looking at my environment, at least back then. And I had turned, and I wasn't looking, and I went to put my hand down on the railing Something grabbed my hand, pulled it back, and I was like, what the heck? I turned around and there was nothing there. I was like, wait a minute. I was physically moved. And then, here's the kicker. I look where I was going to put my hand. There was a scorpion ready to sting.
Holy cow.
Tell me that they're not getting involved with us.
Right.
You know what I mean? This stuff is happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I ask,
Of course.
what's your religious beliefs?
I grew up Lutheran. I'm a Christian.
Okay.
You know, and here's the thing, we all question it. The biggest Christians will question it. That's part of life. That's part of having religion. You know, we have to question and check ourselves all the time. So this actually comes into play with a lot of the things that we do, looking for different things, creatures, entities, cryptids.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think that if you're going into this without that protection, it's kind of foolish. Just my Christian beliefs.
I've been saved so many times that I know there is a purpose out there for me, and maybe finding Bigfoot is it.
I hope so, because like I said, if you guys get video of this thing, I want to see it. I want you to come back on my show and say, look, this is it.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure you'll do your own show first, but
Yeah, we can't share anything until after the documentaries, but boy, we've found some amazing things. Before Jason, we were just sharing everything that we found online. And
yeah, I really enjoyed my interview with Jason. That was a lot of fun.
Isn't he cool?
He is, and I'll send him messages every once in a while, just to touch base with him. But yeah, great guy. But this isn't about Jason. This is about Jenna.
It's always about Jason. I'm kidding.
No. So we've talked about shadow people. We've talked about your Ouija board encounters. You have anything else like in the ghost realm?
Bigfooty? In the ghost realm, oh gosh, getting messages for people. I can give you an example of that. So there's something called higher brain living, and it's something where certain points of your body are touched and energy is released and your body almost starts to try to heal itself. It's really amazing, and you move like a wave. And one thing that it does is it spikes up your sensitivities. So I really don't like the word psychic. I believe it's more about being a receiver of information. And to me, that is what I get. I don't go through life and go, oh, I'm so psychic, I can tell you the future. That's not me. I get it. If it comes to me, it's coming for a reason. And it never comes without a benefit to someone else. So basically what happens is I will get information. I'll get pictures first, and then I verify that the picture. So in this situation, I saw a picture of a butterfly and a dragonfly. Butterfly on top, dragonfly on bottom. And so I asked, not out loud, I said, which one? Because I thought maybe I had done something, or I didn't want to make any presumptions. And I heard both. And I thought, what? And so it continued. And I kept thinking, my gosh, this is just so powerful and meaningful. And I don't remember all the other specifics about it, but I just remember after the session, Jen and I went back to our table, and this woman kept coming up to me saying, I really want to know about this higher brain. And so I'd explain it to her a little bit, and then she'd leave, and then she'd turn around again. And she goes, but I am not understanding. She just kept coming back and coming back. And so finally I explained to her what had happened. And I told her about the butterfly and the dragonfly. And I said, in this circumstance, I wish I could have found the person that it belonged to, because I think my message was, it's okay. This person probably has someone who has passed away and they're worried about them. And she goes, oh my gosh, her eyes got really big. And she goes, I've got a butterfly on the top of my arm and a dragonfly on the bottom. She said, my dad died about a year ago. And she said, I've been really worried about him and where he is. And I said, it's okay. He's okay. Yeah. So, I mean, the information we get as receivers of information is very specific and clear when we get them. It's not like imagination. Imagination, uh, you have to stretch for an imagination. You know what I mean? There's no stretching with information when we receive it, and it's clear and it's direct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know if I would want that personally. I don't know. I don't know if I'd want that gift.
You know, but it doesn't happen all the time. It tends to happen when someone is in need. And my personality type, the way I was born was all I wanted to do was heal people and help people and love people. Even though I've been kicked so many times for it, but I
That's
don't know. I
usually what
think it
happens. The good guy always gets knocked down. But
right.
wow. Yeah, I don't know. I would feel like it was a not I don't want to say burden. Just like it would be heavy, to be, to get this information and not like knowing that I've got to do something with this.
And that's
And
exactly it. That's the hard part because when you're given this information, you know that you're supposed to find this person. After I got the information, I was going around to people asking them, "Do you recognize like butterflies, anything?" Nope, nobody could, but she got to me. So they come to us. It's not something we have to go to people, but I get it. I understand the heaviness that can come with it. But my life has been very heavy, and I feel like I can really identify and be good to people and help them by this.
yeah, yeah, wow, yeah, okay. Um, what about UFOs?
Okay, I'm going to tell you something. Nobody knows any of this, so you're probably going to be the first one to have a real Jenna Grover experience.
That's what I'm here for.
So, all right. When I was young, I was probably maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, and I would have a reoccurring dream it seemed like every night. Every night, I would find myself walking out to a tree line, and I go right past the tree line, and there would be a silver um, egg shaped thing and I knew I was supposed to go in it. I don't remember the doors open. I don't remember really how I got in, but I remember I sat there and it only fit me. Like it wasn't made for anybody else. I was small, I fit in it. And I just remember it being silver. And all of a sudden it would take me, it felt like a million miles an hour, like straight up in the air. And I feel it every time in my stomach because it would go straight up. And so one incident during this dream, I and another person, another little boy, we had gotten out. We had escaped somehow, and we ended up in this hangar. It looked like an airplane hangar. And so we walked through these doors, and to our right is the hangar part. It's black. You cannot see it. It's huge. It looks like a void. It's that black. And when I look at the doors across from me, because there's two sets of double doors, the double doors that were in front of me, these people, I guess, were bringing in what looked like um, funeral boxes, like like wood boxes that you'd just use as for the cemetery. And I was just like, what in the heck? And there was like this huge long row of stacked boxes. And so, yeah, it was just really strange. But anyway, they caught us and then nothing. So I
So
would love to find the little boy.
I was going to say, was that the only other like human that you saw in these dreams?
See, that's the thing. I don't know if they were really human. Because, I mean, they were far away, but they were human like. But I kept looking at those boxes thinking, my gosh, that's like what do you call those funeral boxes? I can't think.
Casket?
Casket. It looked like a casket. It looked like a bunch of wooden caskets everywhere. And the weird thing is, they had a row behind the caskets, the line of caskets. They had a row, like a blank row to walk. That's where we were hiding, behind the caskets and boxes.
But the little boy, was he human?
Yeah, he was my age. We were about the same size.
Oh,
So yeah,
was he the only human that you saw then that you
the only
know
other
was a human?
person. Yes. And then every time I would wake up from my dream, my body would be completely flat and it would go like this against the bed. Like I was dropped from like an inch above. So, in saying that, I tell people that they were dreams, but I'm starting to realize I need some regression, hypnosis. I really want to find out because when I was in my near death um, experience, I also was speaking with a silver sphere. So silver to me means a lot. A lot of dreams. I've had a lot of reoccurring dreams. There's so much.
Are you Arch negative?
No, I don't think so.
Hmm.
Oh, the alien
Yeah.
DNA? I've been told, people have told me that they've been told by their contacts to be careful because of me. I don't know why, but I think I'm claimed is what it is.
Yeah. Did you ever find a weird lump behind your ear?
I'm full of lumps. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, no, but I do have something weird on my foot, and I've just a couple of different areas. So,
Hmm.
but that's why I
Hmm.
want to find out more information on this. I want to, like I said, I want to be hypnotized. I want to find any past life regression. Um, there's so much that I would love to find out because there's so much that I don't remember because of the coma and because of the seizures and because of the medication that I wasn't able to get. So I've lost so much, but it's fun talking about this.
Yeah. Do you have like 3 marks in a triangle pattern anywhere on your body?
Oh, probably I'm full of I'm full of moles, but I don't know. I guess I haven't really
See,
checked.
I asked a guy that one time. He's like, "Do you want to see it?" And he lifted his shirt, and he actually did have a perfect triangle
Were they
right on his
moles
belly.
or were they scars?
He said they formed just like after his UFO encounter, but they were just like these dark spots. I don't know. I couldn't tell, through the interview whether they were moles or if they were freckles or what they were. But he said he did not have those until after his abduction.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
So I always ask people when they have UFO encounters if they have a triangle mark on them somewhere, because that was the first person that ever said, "Yeah, look, I got this mark."
and I haven't even checked my body. I mean, I don't look at my body a lot. I'm too
I don't,
busy looking at the
I
trees.
I was talking to somebody else about that the other day,
Yeah.
because we'd brought up the thing about, do you have the triangle marks?
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever looked myself over, other than, maybe my arms, or, I see my
Right?
face in the mirror every day. The
The
guns.
guns. Right.
Do you get into the martial arts like Tammy does?
No, she's a freaking beast and I love her. I'm actually, as part of my training, because I've gained a bunch of weight because life happens. And so I've got a gym in my garage. And so I've got like a punching bag. So yeah, so I'm all about boxing and, yeah, I'm not worried. Let's just say we were not worried.
Yeah, yeah. I would have said I wasn't going to talk about Jason, but he did mention that, you guys can handle yourselves.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
I'm not sure if you watched the video or the interview I did with Jason, but one of the questions I had asked was, in a battle royale, which of the she squatchers would win, and He did say Tammy.
Well, damn it, Jason. No, I'm just kidding. Tammy definitely has the guns. She's got everything. I do have a little bit of quickness. I'm sure she's quick too. I've got quickness. My legs are pretty strong. My body's pretty muscular and
We
very
should just set this
ready to
up
go.
and we'll just settle this, this question once and for all.
We'd never hurt each other. Never for real. We could do it to somebody else who is trained to take the punch. I got a nice little wicked one. You're like, I will do it. I do have something cool to talk to you about, though. So when you're ready.
Okay. Yeah, we can go ahead with that.
Okay. So here's actually a Bigfoot story that is pretty much unbelievable still to this day to me. We were at an event and Tom Cantrell was there. Do you know who Tom Cantrell is?
The name sounds familiar, but I am horrible putting names with faces. I'm horrible with that.
Well, Tom Cantrell has written books. He's an author, and he also claims that he has a Bigfoot friend who he communicates with, and he happened to be at the same event. And I saw his pictures, and I didn't believe in it. I didn't know him, but he was a very nice man, and I was like, wow, nice, So I told Jen, I said, well, he was a really nice person, and left it at that. And so we ended up all after the event, all of the eventers went out to dinner, and I was sitting talking to Tom, and he was right in front of me, and I was listening to him, and all of a sudden I see this Bigfoot face come out of his face, like start coming out, like it was looking through, like, and I was like, and I turned away because I was so scared, you're never ready to see these things. And so I turned away and I looked back again and it was still there. It was still there. And I turned my head again. And by that time I was like, Jennifer Grover, you turn your head and you look at it, face it. And so I turned and I looked and it was going back. But yeah, it was absolutely incredible. And Tom said he couldn't figure out why. He said, I can't understand why he showed himself to you. And we figured it out once he found out that I didn't believe him. that's why, because I was so not believing Tom was having this Bigfoot come through him. But I saw it. So, and oddly enough, let me tell you this. Many events in the past, people had come up to me specifically and said, I have a Bigfoot inside of me. And I'm like, oh, wow, you do look sturdy. Because, we're busy, and I'm like, yes, you're very solid. But I didn't see anything. So now the next time a person comes up to me and tells me that they have a Bigfoot coming through them, I will sit down with them and I will look and I will see for myself. But it's scary. Wow. It's really scary.
Wow. See, and that's the kind of thing like I was saying before, I don't know if I'd want that burden. I really don't. Like, I think it would freak me out. So, you're stronger than me, I think. Probably kick my ass.
Not mentally. I don't know about physically.
I don't know. Maybe both.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Well, you got to be younger than me for one thing. So
I just turned 51. How old are you?
No way.
Yeah. March 10th, 1974.
Yeah, I'll be 49 this year. I really.
Oh, you're kidding. You look young too.
I really thought you were like 43, 44.
Oh,
and I'm not saying that to kiss your ass because you're on my show. I really thought that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe
well, I'm not good at guessing ages, I guess. Along with not being able to remember names and faces.
Oh my gosh, are we the same? Are we brothers and sisters? We may be related.
Well, my dad was promiscuous, but
my mom wasn't, that I know of.
I'll cut that part too.
Oh, good. Okay. Actually, speaking of different things happening, I do have to say one of the first times that I realized that Bigfoot could exist, Jen and I don't know if you've heard about us finding those footprints up a sandhill.
Mm-hmm.
But that was our first major find. And it was then that reality slapped me in the face, because we had found the prints fine. I still don't believe in Bigfoot. They just didn't get it. So Jen and I decided, while the other part of the group went off to get supplies because we were going to cast it, Jen and I sat there. We were looking through our binoculars, and I was looking through my binocular, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that looks like a little gnome!" And all of a sudden, it went and turned to me and looked, and I freaked out. I was so scared, and that's when I realized. That is the point when I realized that, oh my gosh, we're not looking for gnomes. I just saw a freaking gnome. That's when I realized that Bigfoot could exist. Because if that exists, what else exists? All these stories that we've been told over time and time, I think they're based on truth.
So we got to go into this gnome now. What did it
Okay.
look like?
I'm not kidding you. Just like a gnome, like they have gnomes. It had the hat, and my monocular, it was black and white. So there was no color, but it had the hat. I didn't notice the shirt it was wearing or the pants, but it would look just like the gnome. Just like a gnome you'd see at Walmart. It was weird. And it was probably maybe 3 feet tall, maybe a yard. Yeah, maybe about 3 feet tall. It scared the living tar out of me. You don't expect to see things like this. And they are slapped right in front of you. And you go, wow, was I asleep?
Could have been one of the little people, like Native American little people. No, I'm not talking
No,
like
this was
midgets, but
a gnome. This was a gnome. Because that's what freaked me out. Because when I was looking at it, I thought it was just like lines that was shaped. Oh, it looks like a little gnome. Pareidolia. I thought it was pareidolia. And when it turned and looked at me, that's when I freaked out. You never expect something like that to happen. I'm telling you, there are so many things we don't know about that we're finding just by looking for Bigfoot.
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think when I started this interview tonight, I did not think we were going to gnomes.
I didn't think I would ever go to gnomes.
Wow.
They came to me.
What,
But
what, I mean, did you see what happened to it? I mean, like, or
I dropped the camera and I was yelling at Jen. I didn't see it after I freaked out after it looked at me, and I dropped the camera and I looked at Jen and I started going, because I was so scared. I was just like, what the heck?
how far away from you was it, do you think?
Oh, it was probably maybe 6 feet. It wasn't that far. I am not kidding you. It was that close. We were looking at these little bushes that were maybe 6 feet away from us. And that's where my camera was. And it was, I know, freaked me out too. It's not,
I've
it's
never had
not,
a gnome encounter on my show. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about seeing a gnome.
but that being said, I come from a farming family, and I believe gnomes are known to be around farming families. I don't know if I have that correct, but there was some kind of story with farmers or landowners and gnomes. So
I've never really looked into it. Now you've got my curiosity peaked, so I might have to look
that's
into
that's
gnomes
the
tonight.
right, and that's the point when I realized that Bigfoot may exist. Because if I just saw something that I was not looking for, not ever thinking I would ever see, never even thought they were real, and I just saw that, then that means Bigfoot can be real. Even though I still didn't believe in Bigfoot yet, because it was just footprints, and I needed that thing. But it made me realize that was a turning point where I realized that a lot of these things are probably real.
So let's forget about Bigfoot for a minute. Um, we've seen gnomes.
Hmm.
What else have you seen while you're out there?
Sometimes we see, like, sometimes we'll go visit Randy Bauer's place, And Jen has seen some really interesting things out there. I don't know if you talked to her about that. Randy has seen some things. I believe there's fairies out there. You know, these all of these creatures are existing, and we're finding them more and more. I can't remember. I can't remember what we found.
That's all
I'm
right.
so
It's all right.
sorry. This is the hard part with memory loss. It's just you can get certain things, but you can't.
So we were talking, before we started recording, that you do suffer from memory loss. Could you
Yes.
go into that a little bit, or is that too personal?
No, I can. I'm definitely can go into it. I'm actually trying to heal from everything. So, because of the coma in 2009, I had to try to regain my memory, and I had to learn to walk and talk again. And now I have endured some seizures and some other issues, medicine that hasn't been available. So, what that's done for me is that has basically taken my past and jumbled it all up, and I can't find anything. At one point, someone would ask me a question, and it wouldn't matter what the question. They could say, what color is the sky?" And I would go into my brain, like I would try to think, and it was black. There was nothing but empty black, like a void. And it was the scariest thing. And people don't understand how important memories are to who you are. For a long time, I just hid and I let Jen and Tammy do all the talking because I couldn't remember things. I couldn't remember our events. I couldn't remember, the different expeditions that we were going on, where we were, who we were with. So this is something that's really affected my life. And I just appreciate you for kind of cutting it up and making sure that I don't sound silly.
Well, I will do my best. I mean, it's like, um, normally I release everything and maybe cut out
Mhm.
some personal information. But we've already talked about this. There will be some cuts in this, so
Thank
it
you.
kind of will help explain to the audience, why there's so many edits in this. But I
Yes. Well,
appreciate you, telling the audience,
oh
that part of
yeah.
your life. But how long were you in the coma?
I was in the coma, oh my goodness, a week or two, I think.
Oh wow,
I know I was in the hospital, maybe it was a week. I don't remember how long I was in the coma, but I know I was in the hospital for over 3 weeks.
wow,
So, yeah. And I had to, like I said, I had to learn to walk and talk again. When I first came out of the coma, I had no motor functions. So this was me trying to point because I couldn't talk. And when I tried to write, my eyes and my brain, it made it so tiny that no one could read it, but I could see it, but no one else could see it. Um, I forgot the question all of a sudden.
it was just how long you were in the coma.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I probably at least a week, and then I was in the hospital for 2 more weeks.
Wow,
So, yeah, they didn't think I was going to come out of it. They I kept trying to pull the tube out, I guess. And I was being very feisty. My sister was being so kind. She was like, "Jenna had a good day today." Meanwhile, I'm going, ah, but I wasn't, when you're medicated and you're coming out of a coma. Because when I was in the coma, there was so much going on. I actually saw my life review room. I was in the life review room. It was pretty neat. It was a tiny little room, and I came in through the door, and at first thing I did was I looked to my left, and the walls were full of pictures and videos, black and white and color. And I was like looking at them thinking, what the heck? And some of these people I knew, some people I didn't recognize. And then I started realizing that it was all over the walls, like it was all like wallpapered with my life and my people. And I noticed there was a woman in the corner of the room. She was a little black lady. She's just tiny, and she was very old. And she said, "You're seeing this, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "You shouldn't be." And she guided me out the door to the left. So I was like, "Okay."
wow,
Yeah.
holy cow.
Yeah. Life is very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I really do appreciate you opening up like this
Oh, you're welcome. I
because,
figure if I'm, hmm?
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I figure if I can get through this, then maybe that will help someone else try to get through what they're struggling with. Especially medically, because medically it's the hardest thing to struggle back because you're alone. You're alone. No one will ever understand, and that's kind of like life. No one's ever going to understand what you say. They're going to take what they want from it. Same thing with situations.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. This has been an interesting interview because this has been very personal, and I usually don't get this personal with people. So this has been a little different. So I do appreciate it though,
Hey,
because
you're
a
welcome.
lot of times people see like you and the rest of the girls, and just people on TV. You know, they don't get to see this side of you, and
Yeah.
show that you're a normal human being like you and I are.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm going to cut that part, but maybe,
Um,
because sometimes I once I watch it, I'm like, you know what, that ain't too bad. I'll leave that in. So,
nice.
all right. Well, so we've talked about UFOs. We've
Mm-hmm.
talked about gnomes.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about shadow people, Ouija boards, ghosts. Where do we go? Do we want to go Bigfoot? Do we want to go, or is there anything else other than Bigfoot that you would like to talk about?
Let me see. What else? Yeah, my mind draws a blank.
That's all right.
If you ask me questions, I can try to answer them. But
Okay.
to find something up there is like pulling.
Okay. So we didn't talk much in the group interview, and that was the reason I wanted to have you back on, because I didn't feel like I spent enough time with each of you. Um, let's talk about the first time you saw Bigfoot.
Okay. Actually, that was the first time I saw, I think, Bigfoot was the straight up face when it came through Tom Cantrell's face. As far as seeing Bigfoot at Randy's house, it was such a quick moment glance that I didn't get any specifics. All I know that it was dark and I had seen a Bigfoot behind a pole. It was an electrical pole, and Jen had just talked about her seeing this little. She saw a golden one, like a reddish golden one, where I saw the black Bigfoot. Unfortunately, we didn't get that specific, you know.
So, what's been your most intense Bigfoot encounter?
Oh goodness sakes! I will tell you, it's not as far as intense. One of my favorite. This is actually the point where I decided Bigfoot does exist. So Jen and I were off. We were visiting Greg Yost. He goes by Squatchman. I don't know if you know him,
Is
but hey,
he's in Indiana,
Squatchman.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
we had gone there, and this was right away in the very beginning of She Squatchers, and he had brought us out to a particular area. He said that was his spot, and he took us, and we were walking, and he was showing things that had been ripped down and put up, and we were like, "Wow, this is so cool." And on the way back, we start walking, and all of a sudden, Jen points out, she goes, "Oh my gosh, that looks like a hand." And I run over there really quick because I want to see. And I thought, this can't be. So I looked at it. And as I'm looking at it, I'm like, shit, this is sand. It was sand because there was a small dried up riverbed right next to it that I found out later. But it was sand. So I knew if I went like this, that handprint would just come on down. And my next automatic thought was, I need to sniff it. So I sniffed it and it smelled like grubs and worms and fishy, and that's when I made the realization, why would this smell like this? And then I found the dried up riverbed. So, I mean, anybody could be looking for slugs and snails and things like that. But yeah. And here's the kicker. Greg Yost is very, very tall. He's very big. He put his hand up to that handprint and it towered over his.
Really?
So that's when I decided, okay, yeah, it's a sand handprint. It smells like it does. And the fact that this hand was so much bigger than Greg Ghost's. It was just that was
Yeah,
my
it's kind of hard to
realization.
tell from the videos, but I would guess he's probably 6'5", 6'6", somewhere around in there.
Yeah, he's really tall. He's very thin,
Yeah.
but he's got huge hands, which was the basis.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
What about, have you had well, yeah, you did. We already answered that question. Let me do a different one. Um,
Do you want to hear a little bit more about my NDE?
yeah, yeah,
Okay. So when my NDE started in this meadow, well, no, let me start over. I ended up in this meadow. Now, in the meanwhile, I'm in a coma or on the gurney or wherever I am, but physically away, mentally, I am in this beautiful meadow. And the first thing I do is I look over to my left and I see these trees. It's a line of trees on my left, and they are so tall and they're so beautiful and they're so green. And they go all the way down. And I was just like, wow. And I thought, my gosh, it looks like the leaves are literally waving at me. And then I realized, is there wind? And then I looked at the grass and the grass moved. It looked like water, but it was green grass. And I was just like, wow. And with that realization, I realized that these things were moving, but I didn't feel any wind. And that's when I made the realization that I wasn't physically there. So then I'm thinking, okay, something else is going on here. So I'm looking at this line of trees, and where the left line of trees is ended, there's another one which starts in front of me going this way. And as I watch the trees, I look and there's a man on the horse, and I'm thinking, actually, I'm not thinking, I'm just watching. And as they went down this path, right next to the tree line. It was a stone path, by the way. As they were walking, I noticed there was a little boy on the back, or two boys on the back. I think there were two, one or two. And they were on this horse, and it was walking toward a little entryway where the trees, where the lime trees met, but there was a little spot, like a gate. So I watched them, and they were just about to the gate, and all of a sudden, and I think it was Jesus Christ, he looked at me, and we locked eyes, and it was as if someone stuck a vacuum in the back of my back, and my whole body went and sucked. But it wasn't a body; it was spiritual. Speaking of, I forgot to tell you about the little boy in my dreams, but I can do that too.
yeah. Go right into it.
Okay, so since I've been young, I've had a boy that comes to me in my dreams, and he has taken me on traveling. He's traveled with me all over. He'll bring me to like a church, but then he'll show me the back entrance, like the sneak passageway, and then he'll bring me down places and show me things. One place um, there was tables full of things, old things, and it looked like an old junk stuff. But I was just like, wow. And I was just looking at it. And this is the thing he would do. He'd bring me places and he'd show me things. One of the first places he brought me to was a little yellow room. And how we'd get there is he would bring me into a white room, and there was all these CVC pipe looking things, and they were all over in front of us. And he'd point to one and he'd say, okay. And I'd be like, and he said, go. And I'd be like, I can't, because I'm still attached to my human form. My mind thinks that I still have a human form. And he goes, yeah. I said, I can't. And he goes, yes, you can. And then I'll remember. And then my entire self will just, and then it'll go through and then it'll bring me places. So the first place he ever brought me to over and over and over and over again was this little yellow room. And we'd sit in there and play and play and play. And see, I'm a dreamer. I've dreamt my entire life. But but he'd bring me different places through those CBC pipe looking, and I believe those are portals, entryways to different places. So yeah, he was amazing.
And this is when you were a little kid?
Yeah, but it's gone through. My last dream about him was a couple years ago, and I don't remember what it was. So he has come back. I mean, it's not just youth. It's kind of going through. I know what you're thinking too about the boy up in the ship. Oh, you know what you just reminded me of? When I was in the hospital, when I was during my NDE, I I was standing and Jesus Christ and Lucifer were standing. They both had stabs. And I was like, ooh, I didn't know what was going to happen. So they start fighting over me. Like they're fighting over me with stabs. And I saw Lucifer take a stab and went across Christ's face. And I was like, oh no. And they started going in a circle and they were going so fast. It was like they created a tornado with their fighting. And because they were going around and around and around. And all of a sudden, this is going to sound amazing. It does. All of a sudden, it was like God's hand went down and punched through, and He lifted up a little boy. And I don't know what that means.
Was it the same boy that comes in your dreams, or?
No, it can't be because I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there's so many unanswered questions. There's so many things that I've gone through and experienced. And, people can say, well, I think it means this and I think it means that. But I, being Jenna, think that when it's time, I'll find out exactly what it means. I've been trained, actually. I've been trained against, how would I say it, the bad ones. I learned that, okay, I was in a room. This is another dream, I was in a room and there was this man and he looked a lot like Jesus Christ. And I was sitting there and then my cousin was sitting over on the other, in another area and she was pregnant. And anyway, he showed me this scroll, and there were just a bunch of little square boxes. And when he pointed to a box, he said, "This is you." And it was of a shield with a sword going through. And he said, "This is you." And I was like, oh. And then after that, he taught me I had to kill the wolf to save the baby. So what I had to do is I had to find the light bringer. He was a man, a very old man who held this light in his hands. And once I found him, then I knew close near, there was like this small circle arena kind of thing where you remember the old fighters, they'd be in that round circle and they'd
Like
have
the
to stay
gladiators?
within this. Yes. Okay. So it was a smaller version of that. But I had been taught how to kill the wolf, the bad ones. And he said, it's not animals, because I had a problem with it. I said, I don't want to kill animals. And he said, it's not animals. So he put me in a situation where I understood they were not animals. So, but he taught me how to kill it. And he said, you take the knife, you lift the snout, and and I was just like, oh, it scared me. But at the same time, when I got into the arena, I knew exactly what to do. And I was the warrior who saved the baby. And I just thought that was so amazing. And yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't just one dream about it. There was multiple. I told my mom the story and she goes, Jenna, that sounds like it just came out of the Bible. I said, well, I don't know.
Yeah. This is going to get edited. Have you told the story about the man and the two boys with the horse and Jesus? Have you told that somewhere else?
I have told it a little bit, but I haven't gone into such detail as I have with you. But with the two boys, by the way, I forgot to mention, my father and brother had died. My brother had just died 6 months prior to me dying. And my
Did you say
father
this
had
on
died.
the She Squatchers documentary?
Maybe. Oh, maybe. Yeah.
'Cause I feel like I've heard this before, but I don't remember
Yes.
where.
We were at my sister's house and we were doing interviews and I was sitting there doing my hair. I think, I don't know, putting on makeup or something. But yeah, you have. So this, but I don't tell it a lot.
Yeah.
So, and you're getting a lot more info.
I appreciate that.
You're
Appreciate that.
welcome. I like your demeanor. You're very comfortable, welcoming, kind.
I hope so. I mean, that's the whole point of my show, is to provide a safe place, because anybody can say, I mean, I've had my own encounters and things like that. So I know what it's like to have somebody, you're full of shit. You're making that up. No, I'm not. And if I just, say, I can't believe this person. That's me. That's me I'm talking to. So, I know there's going to be people that's going to watch some of my episodes and be like, that person is just full of shit. But you weren't there. I wasn't there. I can't tell you whether they're lying or not. They could be. They're not gaining anything by lying. Nobody gets paid to come on my show. Hell, I don't even get paid for my show. So,
Oh, I want to hear that.
so, if somebody's coming on my show, they're risking their reputation. They're risking the ridicule. So it's
Yeah.
hard for me to say that, people are lying when they come on the show. So yeah, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I think it's important that people who watch my show realize that I'm not here to judge people. I'm here to listen to their story and provide it for everybody else to watch. And you can make up your mind. Now, if you think, whoever's on my show is full of shit, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to look at somebody and say, you're lying,
Yeah.
unless I was
And
there and, I could say, no, that didn't happen, but I wasn't there. I don't see things. It's your truth. I'm allowing you to tell your truth. Okay. So enough of my tangent.
But no, and going off on your tangent, I have to say that, people that do say that, do we really give a hang dang about? I mean, they're not obviously ready to accept any of this. And the fact that you said, they weren't there. And yeah, I have no problems sharing my truth because it's
Right.
freaking true.
And that's what anybody that's listening to this, that's what I'm here for.
That's awesome.
Just tell me your story. I just want to hear your story. That's really what my show is about, is people telling stories. Hopefully they're true. That's all I
I
can
will
say, is
tell you.
hopefully they're true.
Mine are all true. And I have to tell you, oh no, now I forgot what I was going to tell you. God darn it. It's gone. My thoughts just, part
That's
ADD,
fine.
I think.
That's fine. So,
Oh, that's what I was, oh, go
no,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention, this is what I was going to say before is, the things that are happening to me, I would probably hear it from someone else and think, really? But like you said, when we know our truth is true, then who's to say what they're experiencing isn't? So
Right.
I don't want to judge anyone. If someone believes it and it has happened, then we're here.
Right. And I'm leaving all this in because I think it's important for
Oh,
people to hear this. So, we've been doing this for about an hour and 10 minutes.
hey now.
Time flies.
It does.
Feel like
So
you
do you
have a
have
lot
any?
more to tell, though.
I do. I was just going to say, do you have any other questions? Because honestly, when you ask questions, it helps my brain. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to find something, but when I have something to look for and
Right.
pull from, it really helps.
I'll tell you what. Would you be willing to do another interview?
Sure.
Maybe we can like touch base a little bit more, and because I don't prepare. I don't, because I want this to be a conversation,
Definitely. That's what,
and
yep.
if I have a list of questions, that's an interrogation to me. So maybe we can schedule another interview, but beforehand,
Okay.
maybe we can sit down and talk a little bit. You know, go back a little back and forth to kind of guide where we're going to go.
Okay.
But I'd love to
Yeah,
have you back on the show.
I would love to be here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think this is a good place to wrap it up.
Okay.
Jenna, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you?
Okay. Me personally or She Squatchers?
Either or, both.
All right. We are the She Squatchers. You can find us at shesquatchers.com. She Squatchers Official. We're on YouTube. We're on all the platforms, all the things like Tammy likes to say. And you can find me. My name is Jenna Grover, and I am on Facebook, TikTok, everything. But I have to say, I don't check social media often. So sorry, I don't talk to people a lot. I'm too busy living.
Right? Right? All right. Well, I'll put all those links in the description. Once again, thank you, Jenna, for coming on tonight. I look forward to sitting down and talking to you again. And if you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share, you can email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. I'll talk to you later. Gotta go.
Bye.
Shadow in the pines lurking in the dusky air. Bigfoot stomps through the woods like he don't care. Lights in the sky flash green then blue. Aliens descending with a secret or two. Whispers in the breeze, cold fingers down your spine. Ghosts in the graveyard, twisting through time. Eyes wide open in the dead of night. The myths and monsters giving one hell of a fright. Oh, Myths, Monsters, and Mullets podcast, spinning wild tales of a future and a past. Hosted by John Methenkamp's fiery soul. He takes us where the wild unknown flows. Oh, Myths, Monsters, and Mullets podcast, spinning wild tales of a future and a past. Hosted by John Methenkamp's fiery soul. He takes us where the wild unknown flows. Down by the bayou, you hear a raspy growl. Swamp gas glowing as the coyotes howl. A UFO zipping just above the trees, grabbing hold of wonder like a southern summer breeze. Some call it crazy, others call it a lie. But listen real close as the truth passes by. The lines are blurry, the story's bold. John Methenkamp spins them into southern gold. Apparitions dancing in the smoky haze. Legends of the deep south told in hollers and bays. Bigfoot runs free, chasing shadow dreams. Aliens keep secrets like moonlight beams. Down by the bayou, you hear a raspy growl. Swamp gas glowing as the coyotes howl. A UFO zipping just above